Hi guys, I noticed a little bit of oil seepage here on the bottom of this shock. So what I'm going to do is clean it up around this area nice and clean. And I'll be taking this bike out on the dirt road run. That should make it a little bit cleaner there now, and I'm going to do both sides. Noticed a little bit here. I'll clean this one here up. Okay, so I've cleaned those up. And what I'll do, I'll take it out, give it a bit of a run along the dirt road, give it a bit of a pound out along there, and just see if that improves and I don't get any oil around that, so they're both nice and clean. So I'll take this back out, give her about a 10 or 20 kilometre long run along the dirt, and we'll see if it sort of starts leaking again from either one of those points. There's a bit of an update on what's happening on the rear shocks, the VSS ones that were on the back of this bike. So I headed off out into the paddock, did a 25 kilometre run after cleaning it up on that previous clip. So that was 15 kilometres of rough dirt and 10 kilometres of seal. So once I arrived back to the house here, checked it out, and what actually happened was it was sort of oil seepage around both those hex bolt gearbacks. So I tightened it back up. This time I decided I'd wipe them over and get out a hex and give them a little bit of a nip up. So I actually did that, and they tightened up probably about, I don't know, maybe a mil or two. So I headed back out and did the same run again through a bit of rough country, same route. Come back and there was no sign of leakage, so I thought, oh well, the problem's out of the way now and I've got that solved and everything's good. So I spoke to a friend of mine after that and said, I've solved that leaking problem with my rear shocks. And he said, you may not have solved it completely, you know. And I said, yeah, why is that? Well, he said, those shocks are yours. He said, you might have solved the problem with the oil leak, but he said, you realise they're nitrogen filled shocks, and there's a very good chance when the leak was there that you've lost all the nitrogen out of the shocks anyway. So I never thought much about that, and they were pretty expensive shocks in the first place, and I thought, yeah, well, he's probably right. The first thing to go would be the nitrogen, and then followed on by the leak. So cut a long story short, I got back to the supplier in Thailand, told them about it. I had a leak in the first 50 kilometres of travel on the bike, and they said to me, send the shocks back to them and they'll pay return postage, and I could either get a replacement set of shocks, or I could get a refund of my money, or I could buy something else. Now honestly guys, I don't know whether those shocks work 100% at all or not, but the fact is, when I had the bike out there and riding along the dirt with them, as they were leaking or not, from that point at the piggyback, the fact is they were riding over those dirt sections really well, the bike was handling well, and I was 100% satisfied with it. And if I wouldn't have noticed that bit of an oil leak, and the only reason I picked up that bit of an oil seepage from that back area of the piggyback was when I was riding on the dirt section, when I come back, naturally when oil leaks around anything and you go along dirt, you can pick it up quite easy where all the dust sort of picks up at the back section or picks up around the plug area. So it was a pity too, because you know they're really nice shocks on there and they handle that well, and I notice now naturally I'm back onto the standard shock running it, and I notice now that the bike's nowhere near as good as handler in the rear section along the dirt as what it was with the other shocks on, whether they're working to their full capacity or not. So I'm not a shock expert, so I really don't know how well they were working, but the fact is I was pretty happy with them. But anyway, they're back to them now, and what I've decided now, I'm not going those ones there again, and the reason, two reasons. One, you know, they were up around that 300 US plus freight. I've decided to go for the YSS, similar shocks to what's on here now. They're only 1/3 the cost. They're exactly the same as these, and they're still gas filled, and they've got I think 5 or 7 adjustments on the preload, and I can still work on that preload side of it. And I think for roughly $150 Australian posted, I think I'd be very keen to try those out and just see how they perform compared to these ones here where they're just shocks with no adjustment whatsoever. Second reason for it is on this particular bike, when I had the other shocks on it, I had to put a mountain board here on the top of my fuel can to give me clearance on the shock, or the clearance on the can, so it wouldn't bump up against the piggyback of the new shocks. So that was a bit of a problem there too. So if I go back to the normal style shock, like so, the new one should just sit back in there. I'll be able to get rid of the bit of extra board I put in there to to push out the jerry can, and it should be able to handle it a lot better without having that bit of board there. Although you know we're up near the same standard the other ones, but they're 1/3 the price. See how they go against what I had before. I'm pretty happy with the front end setup now. I'll catch up with you later date. Once they arrive, fit them to the bike, take it out, see how it performs, and once again, thanks for tuning in, taking a look, catch up with you later.